Cyber season is in full swing with our pals Isotope and Native Instruments.
Get huge discounts on everything from Guitar Rig 7,
Complete 14 bundles,
and one of our favorites here at the Cult and Culture Podcast,
Ozone 11 EQ. Go to isotope.com
and nativeinstruments.com
to feast on the audio goodness. Yum.
You can also get additional savings on other softwares by using the code
RUIN10.
DistroKid now also has a motherfucking app. The DistroKid app is available for iOS and Android. You can download it at distrokid.com/app/, or you can get it in the App Store.
Cult and Culture with Justin Pearson. This is Justin Pearson with Cult and Culture, and I'm here with Rob Moran. Let's just go ahead and talk about the Jose Palafox situation.
Okay.
So, we get to this place in Orange County, right? I guess Orange County or somewhere.
It was the Ice House.
Ice House.
Yeah.
Total straight edge, white male, like just, it was bad. And I had an opposition to straight edge anyhow, and that's why I loved Unbroken, because it was like anti-straight edge, you know? The punks could dig it. And so I remember you had Jose Palafox introduce you guys in Spanish. And it's brilliant because I don't speak Spanish very well. And I remember him saying this sort of, you know, rant or speech to introduce you guys. And I think you and him were the only people there that knew what he was saying.
Before the show, we were in the back talking, and, you know, we were talking about touring and how weird it was. Like, he's like, was it ever weird to you, like, going around the country and, like, you'd be the only brown person? I'm like, yeah, it was really strange. I never noticed it until I toured, and I always thought that was strange. He goes, yeah, but look around here. Like, we're in Orange County. Like, look at everyone. And I'm like, oh, yeah. He's like, I'm going to come out and say something controversial. What are you going to say? He's like, oh, you'll know. And then he came out.
So you didn't even know what he was going to say?
No, I didn't know what he was going to say. He just said he was going to say some stuff, and he came out, and I thought it was funny. Looking back on it, it was, like, kind of brutal. I was like, whoa, like, this, you know, this is crazy. But he came out and said, listen, you dumb white motherfuckers, Chicano power's taking over. You're all going to die tonight by the brown hand, and saying all this crazy stuff, and people just didn't know what he was saying, and I was cracking up because I thought it was hilarious. But you're looking at it now, you know, it's like, ooh, that was kind of crazy to say, but
Jose's a lot like you, aside from being Mexican and punk, but, you know, he was obviously like a huge prankster too, so that was the angle. But it was funny because I had no idea what he was saying, but I could just see your expression, and so I was and that was what I could gauge.
I was dying, like, I was laughing because I was like, this is crazy, like a crazy, brutal thing to say, knowing that he was just saying something to be, like, you know, controversial. I thought that was super funny, but looking back on it, it totally could have been taken out of context, you know.
And it should have been taken out of context, but times have changed. I think there's a shift in the non-white male section, or I guess subculture.
Jock culture.
Yeah, it's changing.
Hardcore. Oh yeah, I think it's much more diverse now than it's ever been.
I remember going to this show in Orange County somewhere, and I remember showing up with Unbroken, and there was just this band opening, and instead of X's on their hands, they had crosses, and I never had seen something like that, something so absurd. But I remember that night, like, all you guys just, like, grabbed markers and wrote all this crazy shit on your arms, and were totally trying to play up, like, this sort of evil vibe, you know, to provoke them, and it was definitely amusing.
Yeah, I always thought it was odd that religion would ever make its way into, like, punk and hardcore. I mean, it just, like, even with Bad Brains, I always thought it was weird, you know? It's like, I just find that it's odd, I guess, that people would give Bad Brains a pass for shit that they had done, or, like, for their religious beliefs, you know, just because of, like, their founding members of hardcore or whatever. So my whole thing is, like, I've always been very open-minded. I don't care what you're into. If you're atheist or Satanist, Christian, Krishna, whatever. I just always found it weird that you would be into something that was established to rail against those organized things.
Yeah.
And so that was always my stance. It's like, well, if you're going to do this, then, you know, because me personally, like, I'm an atheist. I just don't care. As long as it's not infringing on anybody, I don't really care. And I feel that sometimes some of these religions will marginalize or infringe on people's rights, whether it's like abortion or women's rights or, you know, gay rights, whatever the case is. And that's where I draw the line. It's like, well, punk was created by these like artists and weirdos and like these fringe element that was like disenfranchised because they didn't fit in anywhere. Hence, like they kind of came together in this, you know, this wheelhouse that we call punk, you know, and hardcore. And so it's like you're coming in now and trying to play this influence of like religion, and so I just felt very like, fuck this, like, you know, like, and we, you know, drew upside down crosses and did all kinds of crazy stuff, and I meant, you know, like, yeah, and I'm sure it probably like hurt someone's feelings, but you know, sometimes like espousing about like, you know, religion that's caused so much like hate in this world, like, it hurts my feelings.
Sure.
You know?
I mean, we've been accustomed to Christianity in the United States, especially. So if you do step outside that, you're at risk of being controversial.
Yeah.
So it was like almost, you're supposed to just be like, oh well, they have crosses on their hands. But I was taken back. You know?
Yeah.
Because that was like our community. We're like, what the hell is this band
This was
doing?
like 92, 93 maybe. Yeah, so it was like very odd to be like, whoa, like where is this coming from? How did this happen? Like, but you know, as much as like it's as fun as it was to like trade barbs and like kind of poke at it a little bit, it was also, I was fine just ignoring it and being like, whatever, like,
because where did that band go to, you know, not to sound elitist or something, but like, it's like, well, they did their thing, and maybe they're all like pastors somewhere in Orange County, good for them, but their band really wasn't very successful. I mean, which also I think showed a little bit musically that night too, because I remember it was just garbage. So I mean, again, that's my opinion, but I was just like, bring on the real band, you know, like let's get it together.
I always felt pretty open-minded about it, but I also felt very threatened by it at the same time.
Yeah.
So it was kind of, it felt oddly dangerous that like someone would try to just like, hey, this is what we're bringing to the scene now.
Yeah.
We're bringing Jesus.
Yeah.
And Krishna and all these things.
Yeah.
Like,
I would trip out on Krishna, dude.
Yeah.
Like,
I was like, this is very dangerous.
Yeah.
You are going to bring in ideals that radically change like free thinking. Like they challenge free thought, you know, and it's like, what happened to the thought crusade of just being able to like think as a free willed person, you know?
Yeah.
And so those are the types of things that like I was very
combative against.
Yeah,
right?
combative
Yeah.
against. It's kind of like, whoa, like you're infringing on my like thought because you want to impose your thoughts and will.
Well, also to tie the two things together, it was going back to, like this sort of upper class privileged white male band. And it was like, well, so what's the point here? Because punks were the outcast, and that, you know what? It's like, especially like in Los Angeles, maybe not in Orange County, but there's such a huge Latino punk community or punk presence, and I think that's important to address. So it was really strange for me to see that, because I was used to playing in Boyle Heights and downtown LA, Hong Kong, all that, places, where it was like everyone was there. Yeah, and then you go to this thing, and you're like, what the hell is all? This is like another planet.
Yeah, it definitely felt weird. So what do? You combat it with like imagery and like all kinds of things just to kind of like annoy people, play kind of like that prank of doing stuff to people.
Well, it's subversive in a sense, but that's one of the reasons why I always would cite Unbroken as easily one of the best hardcore bands, because obviously the music was great and it still holds up to this day, but the aesthetics of it were something that were equally as important. It wasn't narrow-minded or elitist in that sense.
Yeah. Oh, because we all came from different backgrounds and broken homes, and stable homes, and we all came from different backgrounds, and rich and poor, or middle class and poor. Like we all came from different backgrounds, came from like just lower working class, family. My dad was like a working stiff. My mom was a cashier at a grocery store. Kind of what we grew up in, and so. So Unbroken as a band was like very diverse in that way. We came from different backgrounds, but I think that helped contributed to being open-minded and understanding. Like, people come from all walks of life and just respect it.
Yeah.
As long as you're not like infringing on people's beliefs, like then what does it matter,
Sure.
But yeah, I always thought religion and hardcore was always strange to me, But even though I like some of the bands that were pretty good from that whole. Even some of the Christian bands I thought were all right. I wasn't into the message that much, but like I respected them musically. Same with some of the Christian bands. Like I wasn't into the message in any way, but some of the music was like really good. So you just kind of look past it. I guess. I guess how open-minded we were to like even despite like poking fun at some of it or like saying shit in zines or having like symbols on our arms or on our amps when we would play or stuff on our shirts, whatever.
And if you can't make fun of yourself, then you're not going to succeed.
Yeah, we would make fun of ourselves too, and like we knew people made fun of us for like wearing pompadours and being in a Morrissey, and we would make fun of it, and just like so that's the whole thing. We felt like, well, hey, we can make fun of ourselves, we make fun of you too, and we would, we'd kind of have that Sam McPheeters mentality of like I'm gonna fucking poke you with a stick now and again, just to let you know, like I think it's odd that you're here, like but you're welcome, but you're still gonna get poked with a stick.
Yeah.
That was Cult and Culture with Justin Pearson.